I want you to picture a scenario. It sounds like the opening 5 minutes of a modern horror movie.
Right.
The kind where the dread just builds and builds. You wake up on a standard Tuesday, you roll over, you reach for your phone to doom scroll for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and nothing.
Dead silence.
A massive chunk of the internet has just gone dark. I mean, we are talking about a 16-hour void. No TikTok, no WhatsApp messages coming through. You can't check the news.
And no banking apps.
But that's the kicker, right? No banking apps. You tap the icon and it just spins.
It sounds like a digital apocalypse.
Yeah.
But, for a lot of people involved in the event we're looking at today, the real horror wasn't the boredom. It wasn't the lack of social media. It was that sudden, paralyzing realization that they were completely cut off from their money.
That is exactly where we are starting today. We are doing a deep dive into a stack of really fascinating material, and it all centers on a roundtable discussion from Capital Radio's After Work program. They brought in some absolute heavy hitters in the field cybersecurity experts like Monica Vele, Pablo Sanamaterio, and Antonio Sanz from S2 Grupo. And the topic on the table was incident response.
Which, I'll admit, incident response might sound like a really dry corporate buzzword.
A little bit, yeah.
The kind of thing you'd hear in a boring seminar. But as these experts explain, it's actually a chaotic, high-stakes chess game. It's not just about, fixing a computer when it breaks.
No, it's about what happens in the shadows during that blackout.
Exactly.
It's the difference between having a bad Tuesday at the office and a company ceasing to exist. So our mission today is to move past those scary headlines of Company X got hacked and actually look under the hood.
Get into the mechanics of the chaos.
Yeah. We're going to unpack everything from a massive Amazon Web Services outage to a billion-pound nightmare for Jaguar Land Rover.
And crucially, we're going to look at the specific strategies the good guys use to fight back. Because, as the source material points out, the attack is, well, it's inevitable.
The only variable is how you handle it when the red lights start flashing.
And the alarms go off.
So let's get into it. We have to start with the event that triggered that 16-hour silence we mentioned, the Amazon Web Services AWS outage.
Right.
Now, my first thought when big tech goes down is usually cyber attack, hackers in hoodies. But looking at the notes, the experts say that wasn't the case here, right?
That's right. Monica Vele and Pablo Sanamaterio were very clear on this. This wasn't some guy in a basement in a non-extradition country. It was a technical failure.
A technical failure where?
In the DNS resolution system.
Okay, DNS, I hear that acronym all the time. I know it's important, but let's just demystify it for everyone. If the DNS breaks, why does the entire world stop turning?
Okay, so think of the DNS, the domain name system, as the internet's phone book.
It's contacts list.
Exactly. Your computer doesn't really know what Amazon.com means. It speaks in numbers, IP addresses. When you type in a website name, the DNS translates that human name into the specific number string so the computer knows where to go.
So basically, the internet lost its contacts list. It knew who it wanted to call, but it had no idea what the number was.
Precisely. The applications couldn't talk to the databases. And because AWS is such a massive backbone for the modern web,
I mean, it hosts huge chunks of everything.
when it stumbled, everything relying on it just fell over too. And it wasn't just that your Instagram feed wouldn't refresh. We are talking about data phones.
Yeah.
The card terminals in physical stores stopping dead.
That is a part that really struck me in the notes. It's so visceral. You have people standing in line at the grocery store. They've got their latte. There's a line behind them. They tap their card and nothing.
Just an error message.
Yeah.
And of course, nobody carries cash anymore, so you're just stuck.
And that moment of confusion, that awkwardness where you're staring at the cashier, checking your balance, wondering if you're suddenly broke.
That is exactly where the cyber criminals swooped in.
This is where it gets really clever and honestly kind of dark. You'd think if the internet is broken, the hackers would be forced to take a break too.
You'd think so.
Like, oh, the servers are down, guess I'll take lunch. But the source material compares them to street vendors selling umbrellas the second it starts raining.
It's a perfect analogy. They are incredibly fast. The experts noted that while these legitimate companies were scrambling to fix the technical DNS error, criminals launched a massive smishing campaign.
So that's phishing, but through SMS text messages.
Yep. And the timing was just impeccable. They knew people were panicking about their cards not working.
So what did the messages say?
They played directly on that fear.
Yeah.
They sent texts saying things like, there are payment errors due to the outage. Protect your money by transferring it to a secure account now.
Which is terrifyingly clever. If I'm standing there and my card just got declined and I get a text that looks like it's from my bank saying, hey, we know there's an error, move your money, I might just do it.
Of course. You're vulnerable in that moment. You are looking for a solution.
And here is the technical trick that makes it so, so dangerous. These fake messages weren't coming from some random suspicious-looking number.
No. They were appearing inside the legitimate SMS threads of the user's actual banks.
Wait, hold on. We need to pause on this because this is where people get caught. How is that even possible? If I open my messages and I see a thread with my bank where I get all my verification codes, and a new message pops up in that same thread, I'm going to trust it. I just assume the phone verifies who is sending it. How do they hijack a real thread?
Well, it comes down to a weakness in the SMS protocols, specifically something called sender ID.
Sender ID.
The experts explain that sender ID spoofing allows a hacker to just mimic the label of the sender. It's just text data. They type in bank, and your phone receives the message. Your phone sees that text label bank and thinks, oh, I already have a folder for bank. I'll just put this new message in there.
So the phone is just organizing messages like a filing cabinet. It's just looking at the label in the folder. It's not actually verifying who sent the letter.
Exactly right. It doesn't verify the source in the way you'd hope. It just groups by the name string. So if the hacker spells Bank of America exactly the same way,
it goes right into the trusted thread.
it goes right into the trusted thread.
That creates a perfect storm. You have a genuine technical failure causing real anxiety, mixed with a highly opportunistic criminal scheme, and it's delivered through a channel you trust implicitly.
And unlike the technical outage, which EWS fixed in 16 hours, the money people lost to those scams, that's gone forever. It really highlights that incident response isn't just about the servers. It's about the human fallout.
Speaking of fallout, let's level up. We're moving from the consumer level, me failing to buy a coffee, to an industrial-grade catastrophe. The sources discuss a massive attack on Jaguar Land Rover.
Yeah, this is a textbook example of just how costly cyber warfare has become. We aren't talking about a website going offline. This attack forced their production to zero.
Zero, as in nothing coming out of the factory.
0 cars coming off the line. The estimated impact cited in the discussion is just staggering.
How much?
Potentially up to £2 billion.
2 billion. That is an insane number. That's like the GDP of a small country. Who is behind something like this? Is it a nation state trying to destabilize the UK economy?
Interestingly, no. The experts identified a ransomware group. They referred to them as scattered lapsus hunters. And the motive, as Antonio Sanz points out, is purely economic.
So there's no political agenda. It's strictly business.
A very ruthless business.
Yeah.
They see themselves almost like service providers. The better the service, meaning the more completely they destroy your ability to operate, the higher the fee they can charge to give you the key back.
But I have to ask, why was the damage so high? I mean, £2 billion. Usually you hear about a company getting hacked, they restore from a backup, and they're back online in a few days. Why was this so different?
This brings us to a really critical distinction the experts made between IT information technology and OT, or operational technology.
Okay, let's unpack that, because I think most of us live in the IT world. IT is what we usually think of: email, spreadsheets, the corporate network.
HR, software, that kind of thing.
Yeah, if that goes down, we go get a coffee. What is OT?
OT is the physical world. It's the robotic arms on the assembly line, the sensors, the actual hardware that welds the metal and builds the cars. The experts suspect the attackers didn't just lock up the office computers.
They compromised the OT network.
Yes, and that is a much, much bigger problem than a locked laptop.
It sounds like a nightmare.
It is a nightmare. Antonio Sanz explains it brilliantly. In the corporate IT world, if a laptop gets infected, what do? You wipe it, re-image it.
Or just give the employee a new one from the cupboard.
Exactly. But in the OT world, you might have an assembly robot that cost millions, was installed 20 years ago, and runs on very specific, very outdated software.
The notes mention something about Windows XP, which I haven't even thought about since, like, high school.
Yes, and that's not uncommon in manufacturing. Imagine a robot that relies on drivers built for Windows XP. If that system gets encrypted by ransomware, you can't just download a new driver. Microsoft stopped supporting that ages ago.
The manufacturer might not even exist anymore.
The software could be completely lost to time.
So you have a perfectly good mechanical robot, all steel and hydraulics, that is now a giant multi-million-dollar paperweight because its digital brain is fried and there's no way to reboot it.
Exactly. You might have to replace the entire physical machine. And while you're figuring that out, production is at zero. And the ripple effect, this is crucial, doesn't stop at Jaguar.
Right, because of just-in-time manufacturing, they don't have warehouses full of parts sitting around anymore.
Precisely. The supply chain froze. Suppliers who make the seats, the engines, the electronics, they suddenly had nowhere to send their parts. Their trucks were turned away.
Wow.
The source mentions that some suppliers had to close down operations and even lay off employees because the big fish just stopped swimming.
It really shows how fragile these ecosystems are. We think of these massive companies as invincible, but one piece of bad code in the wrong place.
And the whole thing comes grinding to a halt. And that leads us to the philosophy of response. Because if you accept that these attacks are getting more destructive, the question changes.
It's no longer, how do we stop them from ever getting in?
It's what do we do when they're inside?
This is where Antonio Sanz really shines in the discussion. He talks about the inevitability of the attack, and he breaks down the corporate world into three categories. He calls it the 1990 theory. I love this.
It's a very grounding reality check. So you start with the 1%. These are the companies with, essentially infinite budgets.
The biggest tech giants,
Yeah.
major global banks.
Exactly. They buy every tool, they hire every expert, and they minimize risk to the absolute limit.
Must be nice. But most of us aren't there. Then you have the 9%.
The 9% are the smart realists. They don't have infinite money, but they manage risk carefully. They invest where it matters most. They know they can't be bulletproof, so they focus on being resilient.
They can take a punch and keep moving.
Exactly. And then there's the 90%.
The danger zone.
This is the vast majority of companies. Antonio describes them as having maybe one overworked IT person, barely an antivirus, and just zero awareness of the actual threat landscape.
And to be clear, these aren't just tiny mom-and-pop shops, right? We're not talking about a local bakery.
No, and that's the scary part. He mentions companies with 2,000 employees and huge revenue streams that still operate with this 90% mentality.
They think, who would want to hack us? We just make widgets.
We aren't the CIA. Yeah.
And that attitude leads to what I think is the funniest yet most terrifying anecdote in the entire source material, the Hello Kitty vulnerability.
It is the perfect example of how the human element defeats the technical defense every single time.
So paint the picture for us. How does Hello Kitty take down a corporation?
Okay, so you have an employee, maybe they're working from home, and they're using their child's laptop to log into the corporate network. A laptop covered in stickers, pink casing.
The Hello Kitty laptop.
The Hello Kitty laptop. But the problem isn't the stickers. It's that the child previously tried to download a pirated version of a game.
Ah, there it is.
Candy Crush, I believe, was the specific example.
And nothing in life is truly free, especially not pirated games.
Exactly. The game came bundled with an info stealer malware. It's a silent program that just sits in the background. It doesn't crash the computer, it just watches.
So the moment the parent logs into the secure corporate network from that compromised laptop,
The malware grabs their credentials.
and just like that, the hackers have the keys to the castle. Not because they cracked a complex encryption code, but because someone wanted to play Candy Crush for free.
It just highlights that you can have millions of dollars in firewalls, but if your culture allows someone to log in from an unsecured device, you're vulnerable.
It's totally opportunistic.
The hackers didn't even target that company. They just cast a wide net and happened to catch a Hello Kitty laptop.
So if we are part of that 90% or even the 9%, what do we do? The source material offers a bit of a survival guide for the 21st century.
It does, and it starts with redefining what a backup actually is. Antonio makes this great distinction between 20th century backups and 21st century backups.
What's the difference? I mean, a copy is a copy, isn't it? If I put my files on an external hard drive, I'm safe.
Not anymore. In the 20th century, a backup was for accidents. A power surge fries a drive, or an intern deletes the client database.
Protection against incompetence or bad luck.
Right. You go to the tape, you restore it. But today, the threat isn't accidental. It's intentional destruction. Ransomware gangs know that your backups are your only safety net.
So that's the first thing they go for.
The very first thing they do, often weeks before they trigger the attack, is find your backups and delete or encrypt them.
That's brutal. So when the screen goes red, you go to restore your data thinking you're clever and it's already gone.
It's gone. So 21st century backup needs to be immutable. That's the key technical term. It means you can write data to the backup, but once it's written, it cannot be modified or deleted for a set period.
Not by you, not by the admin.
And certainly not by a hacker.
It's like carving it in stone rather than writing it in pencil.
Perfect analogy. And combined with that, he talks about storage with journaling.
Journaling. That sounds like writing a diary. Dear diary, today I got hacked.
In a way, it is a diary of the system. It records every single change, second by second. This allows you to rewind the system to a specific point in time.
So if the ransomware activates at 4:00 a.m.,
You can tell the system, rewind everything to exactly 3:59 a.m.
that is incredibly cool. It's literally a time machine for your entire company.
It is, but it's expensive. And there's another layer to this survival guide, and it's about what happens after the attack, this concept of being forensic ready.
This sounded like CSI cyber to me.
It's very similar. When a crime happens in the physical world, detectives look for fingerprints, DNA. In the digital world, those clues are in the logs. But here's the problem.
What's the problem?
Many systems are configured to overwrite their memory every few hours to save space.
So by the time you realize you've been hacked, the evidence is already gone.
Wiped.
Mm-hmm.
Antonio mentions firewalls that only keep logs in memory for 2 hours. If the attack happened at midnight and you find out at 8 a.m., the crime scene has been wiped clean. You can't investigate.
You can't learn how they got in to stop it from happening again.
Exactly. So being forensic ready means setting up your systems now to keep those records just in case. It's assuming the crime will happen and making sure the security cameras are recording.
You know, throughout this whole discussion, there's this recurring theme of the human element. The Hello Kitty laptop, the panic with the AWS outage. The experts emphasize that incident response isn't just coding, it's psychology.
It really is. When a company gets hit, the executives are often in a state of absolute panic. They're watching their business just evaporate. The incident responders, the technical experts who come in, they often have to act as therapists first.
Calming them down before they can even touch a keyboard.
Calming them down, guiding them. Antonio shares this very telling observation. He says he often speaks to IT managers who, before an attack, couldn't get a budget for basic security.
Begging for scraps.
And then after the disaster strikes, suddenly the CEO hands them a blank check. Spend whatever you need, just fix it.
It's the classic closing the barn door after the horse has bolted.
It is. And it's tragic because a fraction of that blank check spent a year earlier could have prevented the catastrophe entirely.
So what does this all mean for us? We've gone from a DNS failure stopping us from buying bread to a billion-pound shutdown of a car factory.
To the nuances of immutable backups.
Yeah. I think the thread connecting all of this is preparedness and fragility. We are so incredibly dependent on these digital chains, supply chains, cloud chains, DNS chains, and they are fragile.
Security isn't just about luck. It's not about hoping they don't pick you.
No. As the source says, security isn't a question of luck. It's a question of strategy. You have to assume the rainy day is coming and buy the umbrella before you see the street vendor hiking up the price.
That's a powerful takeaway.
It really is. And I want to leave everyone with a final thought, something to chew on that really stuck with me from the Jaguar story and the Hello Kitty anecdote.
What's that?
We tend to think of cyber attacks as these highly sophisticated, Mission Impossible style operations. But often they rely on the simplest, silliest mistakes. It makes you wonder, how many other billion-dollar industries are currently teetering on the edge of a total shutdown, just waiting for one person to download the wrong game on a shared laptop?
It's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
The biggest threat to the global economy might not be some super hacker, but a pirated copy of Candy Crush.
On that cheerful note, go check your backups, maybe check your kids' laptops for illegal downloads, and stay safe out there. Thanks for diving in with us.
Stay secure.